Okay, I think we are recording.
It should be a little red dot. Yep, then you are recording. Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good job. No, it's not easy. It's not easy. And you did a good job. So, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I was going to introduce you officially,
Oh, I
um,
love a good introduction.
but I wanted to know, is it Adamus?
Yes.
Okay. I kept saying in my head Adamus for some reason.
Yeah, that's usually where everybody goes. It's okay.
Okay, so today we are talking with full-time editor and writer John Adamus. You can find him on Twitter, Patreon, Twitch, YouTube, Discord, and the writer next door appointments.as.me. Thank you for joining us, John.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay. So the first question I had for you, which
Hmm.
sometimes can be, I was going to ask you most of the same questions you've already.
You can ask me whatever you want.
Okay. So artistic weapon of choice.
Is always going to be language.
Okay.
Always. I've tried other things. No, it didn't work. It didn't work at all. My best ability to communicate is spoken word. Everyone else will tell me that it's written word, and I guess that's okay. And I guess I have to believe in it because enough people have told me over the years that it has to be written word. So maybe they're right. But I've always felt more comfortable doing it myself, speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I am far, far happier talking to each person or a group of people or whatever. I'm far happier doing that because if I can see you, even better. But if I can at least verbally communicate, I kind of get a sense of the face you're making, or whether or not you're nodding your head as I talk along, or whether it sounds okay. It
Yeah.
doesn't. There's that stiffness and that disconnect with text where I just kind of have to lob it out there and hope you get it.
Yeah. I understand that for sure.
Yeah,
Today's society of texting all the time, it's, easy to take things the wrong way.
it is. And then you end up having to it happens to me all the time. I write a text message that to me makes sense because I know the context and I knew what I meant. And I knew if I were saying it, I know exactly what word I would emphasize and exactly what way. But then the other person reads it and doesn't know a thing about the context I'm giving. So then it turns into not always an argument, but when it does turn into an argument, you end up kind of like going through six text messages, eight back and forths, an hour worth of ferociously battling each other because you're trying to explain, like, no, when I said this, the word this, here is the thing I meant.
Mhm.
It's gonna happen. I can swear to you, just given the course of my general day, it probably happens to me once or twice a week. I'm due statistically, if I look at my calendar, it'll probably happen right this second. Um, it's a thing. And if I knew how to fix it and stop it, I super would fix it and stop it because it's exhausting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when did you start getting into like writing and editing? Was there any particular moment or?
I've been writing forever. I have very clear memories of being a kid with like my IBM PC Junior. I've just immediately dated myself, I realize. But I have very clear memories of just, knocking out short little paragraphs, little bits here, a little bit there. I don't remember if they were any good. I mean, I was, like in middle school. Let's see, when did I get that computer? Like my first computer was, I guess, sixth or seventh grade,
Mhm.
and then when I got into high school, I actually needed one for school. It was sort of that era where things were still sort of analog and kind of digital, but to have a printer and print out stuff was cool. Of course, I mean, it was the old fashioned printer with the ribbons and the bits and all the bells and whistles. But I started writing ages ago and I got into editing in college. because I just thought it was really cool that somebody could not be a jerk of an English teacher. Like, I had some really bad English teachers who were terrible humans, who were mean and everything you don't want in a like an authority figure. You just bad people, right? And I swore I would and this one woman, she's dead. I can talk about her now. This one woman was just the worst, and she would she shredded she would make a big show of like yelling at kids and make a big show of telling you how bad you were. Really like the not ideal kind of teacher. And I remember this one argument. Well, it wasn't really an argument because I wasn't allowed to respond, where she lectured me. Let's call it a lecture. She lectured me to tell me, John, you're never going to make it. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be some kind of wordy creative. Oh, John, you'll never make it. You'll never be good enough. You don't know what you're doing. You'll never get it. And it crushed me. It absolutely crushed me, because I did not come from a place where I was getting a whole lot of support. So to hear one more authority figure telling me one more time that I kind of sort of wasn't good enough brutalized me. So then when I get to college and I finally had freedom, in between those moments where I let that freedom go to my head and I didn't have any sort of structure, and it was just kind of like, do whatever for 4 years. I got into editing entirely because I wanted to prove this woman wrong, which is the worst reason to fall into a career. But it stuck. Like, I got good at it, and I got good at the fact that like I could make, from what is for me a minute's worth of work, read a thing, oh, change this, this, and this, fix this, change that, cut that, you don't need it. And then the other person would have this profound, oh my God, this is so much better, thank you. And I didn't really break a sweat. All my teachers prior to this made it look like, oh, I've weathered in the fields, I've had these great trials and tribulations grading your papers. And here I am in college editing things, and it wasn't very hard. Like, I ate sandwiches while we did this. I drank while I did this. I was not slaving away, and I got good at it. I didn't know how to measure goodness of it. I didn't realize what was good or what was not, but I just started liking it, and I started liking it more than writing because it came easier to me, and the response I got was better. It was faster and more frequent, and as somebody who needed that, it felt good. So I just kept doing more of it. That's sort of a theme with me in life. If it feels good, do more. If it, a little bit feels good, do a lot more, and then you'll be okay. It's not a great strategy, but it's gotten me this far, and I don't have any plans to stop it.
Yeah.
But I fell into it, and it at this point, I've been doing it so long, I kind of don't want to do anything else. I can't imagine sitting there and doing anything like it. I'm too stubborn. I'm too cranky. I'm too set in my own ways. I'm way too rigid. I don't take orders particularly well. So anybody who wants to be like, we'll get John in an office. No, you won't. No, I mean, I'll walk by your office. I'll visit your office, but you're not going to chain me somewhere. Even if the money is amazing, I'm still going to sit there and look out the window and go, I wish I was out there. It's just how I am. It's just, at this point, I can't do anything else, for good or for ill. I mean, it's good that I have this skill set for 20 plus years. It's less good that this is my only skill set for 20 plus years. If you were to ask me to do business things, you're gonna have to show me a few times. You're gonna have to get me to not think of, if you want me to do something more professional, tuck my shirt in, you're gonna have to walk me through this process.
Yeah.
Because I am actively disinterested in cooperating with this system. But that's how I got into it. It just sort of fell into it. I needed something to do, and the guy who taught me how to do it was like, you need something to do. I did need something to do, and this seemed low stakes at the time I started, because if you screw it up, I'm no worse than that bad English teacher, but if I do well at it, I'll make a difference for somebody. I love making a difference for people. I love helping them. So if I can do what to me was not a whole lot of work, but really help people, Well, that means I can like get all my stuff done in 20 minutes, put my feet up, take a nap, read a book. Everybody else gets helped. It's the best of both worlds for young 20-year-old John.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I need to take a break and apologize for my cat, which I'm sure you can hear in the background.
Oh, it's totally fine. You never have to apologize for a cat. It's completely okay. If your cat has questions, I'll answer those questions too.
I'm sure at some point he'll be vocal and you guys can talk to each other.
I'd be very happy to do so.
He's the most talkative cat I've ever owned, so. So then tell me how you used to work for a radio station. How did that fit into the whole thing?
Oh, so when I was in high school, my first job involved driving a lot. I had to drive from various places to pick things up and deliver them to other places. Sometimes it was boxes, sometimes it was whole material. For a while, it was, surgical equipment. I was always carrying stuff and doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the radio on all the time. And they sounded like they were having a lot more fun than I was having driving. So, I was a young guy, and I wanted that. It was the late '90s, early 2000s. I was just out of high school. I was kind of stuck in this job. I was going to school part time. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I know I didn't want to keep doing that until I was 60.
Yeah.
But I had the radio on all the time, and those guys sounded like they were having a hoot. So I emailed them one day, and I'm like, "Hey, do you want, like, you have interns, like people who are doing grunt work? I'm not an intern, but I'll help. Like, I don't want to be a grunt for you,
Yeah.
but I'll help you. I can write and I can edit." And they took that to mean sound editing. And I thought they meant like words, like fix their commercials or live reads or something.
Mm-hmm.
And neither of us corrected the other when we asked about it. But it was immediately like, "Hey, come on in. We could totally use an editor." I'm like, "Great, this is fantastic." So I come in, and they immediately sit me at a desk, and the first thing they have me do is edit. They have me work on some commercials, fix these, make it sound good. I do, and then they're like, "Okay, we're going to go record them." Okay, I'll wait right here. And then they come back later and they hand me, this was still in the days of like old fashioned tape with Scotch tape and razor blades. And they're like, "Okay, edit this down." Okay, I saw somebody do this once.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'll just try." So I did. And I was okay at it. I was at least okay enough at it to where they kept telling me to come back for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then after, I don't know, a month, 2 months, they said, you want to just do this job? Yeah, sure. Because I was getting exposed to not just like cool equipment like the sound machine and the microphone. I was also getting exposed to this was the late '90s, early 2000s. So there's porn stars and drugs and alcohol flowing everywhere. And it's this weird, strange shock jock bacchanal where, as a young guy who, grew up really sheltered, who grew up like all those cool pantsless, sweaty things were way over there in the distance, and I would never be good enough to get near them. This was my chance to be like, that person doesn't have pants on. And it was great. It was great, except it really started me on this sort of downward trajectory through life, because there was nobody to stop us. There was nobody to say like, "Hey, John, you've had 18 beers. You might want to sit down. Hey, you probably don't want to like smoke all of that at once. Maybe eat something. Maybe don't, more or less plan out a felony in order to have more fun."
Mm-hmm.
Nobody stopped us. And I mean, eventually the whole, I got moved around like a chess piece between different shows. The one I worked for was in the afternoon, and then the evening show was like, "Hey, can you edit? Do you want to stay late?" And that usually meant, not stopping what I was doing. "Yeah, sure, let's do more of this." So then I moved to the evening show, and I was there for a while until everybody kind of got fired or relocated, and they didn't keep me. But that was this sort of that was the beginning of the dark period in John's life, where everything was just kind of like bad. I had fun, from what I remember. I made some friends, from what I remember, but in the end, I ended up burning all those bridges. I look back on it now, like you can find some of the stuff online if you know where to look. And I listen to it and it sounds like a million years ago. It sounds like totally different people living this different world. And some of it I know I was there for. Like I remember like, oh, I slept with that person. Oh, I remember, like they let me crash on their couch, and I remember getting into an argument with this person in an elevator. But it was a very strange period because it took me. I swore up and down I was being creative. I swore up and down I was making a positive difference in the world by working on these commercials for them, or by writing jokes in the background, or by lobbing in smart ass comments just barely off microphone so that you could kind of sort of hear me, or generally just sort of lounging and kind of taking up space unless somebody needed me. But it it wasn't good. Like I'm in my at this point in my early 20s. I'm barely chugging my way through school. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm horrendously emotionally immature. I'm basically just a big high school frat kid with terrible views on other humans and how to live, because nobody was there to stop me. Because nobody was there to be like, hey, you should maybe grow up, or maybe change the way you feel about this thing or that thing or this group of people or this activity. And even if you told me, I'd, run a whole string of expletives at you. I'd be profane at you for about an hour straight, not let you get a word in edgewise, beat you down, and then walk away and go back and just tell you that you were wrong and I knew what I was doing. That was the downside. That was sort of like the unfun part of the party. Like the party while it's going on is fantastic, but then eventually it ends and you got to clean up all the messes. And I tried to delay cleaning those messes for years. That's really how that started. I would do it again. I would do it again. If I were 20, 21, 22, I would super do it again. There were they're looking at it now. There are totally things from what I remember that I would change.
Mm-hmm.
But I still liked the experience. It still taught me a lot about how to communicate, albeit poorly. It was good for all its ills, and it was a set of experiences I will never get and probably never be able to get ever again. It was a completely different world back then, and I was a totally different idiot. And it was a period in my life, and it taught me a lot, but I didn't realize what it taught me until like 5 years ago. Yeah. It was interesting because I wouldn't like me if that version of me like walked in this door. It would not We would not be friends. We would not hang out. I would not be interested at all in what that guy was up to or what he was doing. It was a lot of fun, but it like so many other things in that sort of 15-year stretch of my life, everything ended in fire. Everything ended in disaster because I didn't know how to end anything. That was my one failing as a writer. I never got the hang of ending things because the act of writing was fun. And the thinking and the dreaming and the planning was all fun, but I never got around to writing any endings or moving forward in the next steps in the process without like massive social pressure or somebody helping me or whatever excuse I had to make for myself. So I never got the hang of endings because I didn't want it to stop. Because I always thought, well, if I end this thing, the next thing it's going to be diminishing returns. It's not going to feel so good the next time. And I was then and still am now somebody who really enjoys things when they feel good and very much dislikes them the minute that changes 1%. Mm-hmm. So I never got to hang on endings. So that trickled out from the writing into everything else. Because why should it stop? We're all having a good time. Nobody's too badly upset. There's only a few people crying. There's only a few, issues there, where lawyers are getting involved, or, some kind of law enforcement gets called, and then only one person's bleeding. Like, what's the big deal? It'll be fine. It's only like a national controversy. It's not it's fine. You'll get over it. And then in the end, you don't. And then you feel lost. And then whenever I feel lost, I pick fights, because I need that kind of interaction, because, heaven forbid I use some kind of emotional intelligence in my 20s. So I picked a lot of fights. I burned a lot of bridges, and I kind of wandered aimlessly, sort of working, sort of planning for a future that I knew would never materialize, because I would never put in the work to do it. And I just kind of lucked by. So that's how I got started.
Well, thank you for that.
Oh, anytime. Anytime.
So what influences you in your work?
Editorially?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is going to sound vague. I love the sense I get when I talk to somebody and they've gotten it. So you bring me a chapter, you bring me a book, you ask me a question, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. But the minute I start explaining it, I get excited, because I like to hear the sound of my own voice, and I like helping people. So the talking part's good, but it gets even better when all of a sudden I can hear it, or I get the sense or the impression that the other person understands what I'm doing, and they get what I'm talking about, and they know how they're going to take this advice and interpret it for their work, whatever that is. That's what influences me every time, because I learned this job from one guy who didn't really tell me where he learned it. And at the time, I always had the impression like this is some kind of like ancient wisdom passed down through the ages, that it's some kind of secret cabal that you have to like, wear a cloak and light a candle, and then you're taken through the secret passages, and then all will be revealed to you. It's not that. I didn't realize that until much later in life. It's not a big secret. It is just a different job where everybody is kind of sort of doing the same thing. Some people better than others, some people more openly than others, some people flat out poorly on purpose or otherwise. But the influence for me is always in helping, and more so than all the influences that affected me in writing or affect me creatively in a bigger sense. Just editorially, it's always about that other person. How can I help them do whatever creative thing they want to do? Do I have to sit here and, make faces at them to motivate them? Do I have to yell at them? Do what's going to help them connect the dots? And I don't care if it's the dots I give them, or if it's the dots they have, or we work together to make our own. I've never cared about that. I have always cared about, okay, what do you want to do? Let's get you a plan on how to do that. Go. Because it's better that way. You get your thing done. That's what you wanted. I get to help, which is what I wanted. Mm-hmm. Every other influence I've had has either promoted the idea that it's good for you to make your own plan and go your own way, or it's good to help other people. Or I guess the third option is anybody who stands in the way, that's dumb, and you should throw rocks at them until they leave. Those are sort of the influential spheres in which I orbit. Say something and speak up against other people, enable other people to succeed, and then flat out help them succeed. So whether we're talking political revolutionaries, or we're talking major successful writers, or whether we're talking like the severely creative but also severely challenged in some way, shape, or form, it all kind of mishmashes together creatively. But that is completely different than editorially, where it's just one dude taught me how to do this, and I've been making it up ever since. Because there's no book on it. I had to read like half a dozen to kind of piece together a rough idea of, past his advice, what do I do? Because he died. Mm-hmm. So I can't exactly call him and be like, hey, here's the situation I got. mean, he'd be 130 now if he were alive. So well, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of flying by the seat of my pants for a good long while, and it kind of works. Every once in a while, I run into like a real spot where I don't know what to do. Like I can do the work, I can do the books, I can do the scripts and all this and that. But when it turns into how do I make a business so that I can buy groceries, or how do I keep the lights on this month? Sometimes we didn't really cover that when we were talking about how to handle prepositions and semicolons.
Mm-hmm.
We sort of now. Maybe I missed those lessons because I was busy doing other stuff, but I'm pretty sure I would have remembered the part where he sat me down and was like, "Hey, John, this is how you do this successfully," because he was successful at it. It's how he met his wife. It's how he had kids. It's how they had grandkids. It's how he bought his little house. Like, he worked a lot. Now, granted, this was a different era. These were decades past where, capitalism was like capitalism. And money was a bit bigger and more free, but it was a very difficult lesson for me in the last couple of years to realize that one guy influenced me editorially, a ton of people influenced me creatively, but I still end up making up a lot of this on my own in like a big significant way. And I've never, even to this day, right this second, I've never been okay saying like, yeah, that's a me thing. I didn't learn that from somebody else. I made that up on my own. I've never felt comfortable. I've made things. I've got stuff. I've got formula and plans. Mm-hmm. But I always try to like attribute that in some way to somebody else because I know me. And like, I'm barely smart enough some days to put shoes on. So the idea that I have created this system where somebody is empowered to do a thing is mind-boggling because I can't spell the word guarantee the same way twice. And I struggle with, just getting out, getting moving and getting out of bed some days. And I struggle with figuring out like, how am I going to talk to this person or whatever? It's weird to sort of own that. It's weird to be like, oh yeah, I'm in my mid 40s now. I guess I'm doing my own thing. It's no longer like in the shadow of this person or in the collective shadows of those people. It's weird. It's just weird. I feel like I didn't answer your question though.
I think you did.
I have this terrible habit where you just start talking and then I'm like, all right, we're going to talk for a while. Whatever, it's fine. And I'll just go wherever the conversation meanders.
That's cool. I wish I had that. I can't keep on a conversation on my own. I had to give a speech recently and I was struggling to fill time because I don't talk normally like that.
Well, you're doing fine so far. You'd never know. You're doing great. I got to tell you, I've sat with worse. So there's always that.
I'm better than worse. That's good.
You're better than worse. And you're doing great. You're asking good questions. You're moving your face. That's a huge part of a conversational deal. You're doing great. Give yourself some credit. I can give you air horns. Would you like air horns?
You're gonna scare my cat, but sure.
All right, here. We'll even turn the volume down. How's that? There. Have some air horns. Just for you.
Thank you.
That's like. I love being interviewed, but I love being interviewed not because there's a formality to it or a structure to it. I like it because I get to talk to a person. And I understand now. I think I'm pretty good at talking to people. I've always been that way. And I understand other people are not. I used to get really angry at other people. What do you mean you can't have a conversation? Let's just talk for an hour and put the thing on and we'll record it. And then it just always bothered me, but I guess mellowed in my old age because now it's not like, come on, you ask me a good question. What are you doing? I got stuff to do. Now it's more like, hey, whatever you want to talk about. No, that's fine. We can be really structured. There can be pauses. We can just sort of meander. You can just ask me 2 words and tell me, John, give me 45 minutes of audio. Go. Whatever you want to do. Whatever. It's totally, you're doing great. You're really doing great.
Thank you. So you, aside from writing and editing, you also do coaching. Can you tell me more about the coaching?
Oh, thank God. Yes, I love talking about coaching. So because I'm prouder of it than I am the writing. Like, my writing now is in service of the other things I do. I had a blog for years. It was pretty okay. But it made me long-winded. Again, because it's a case where nobody was there to stop me and go, hey, John, blog posts should not be 13,000 words every week. Maybe don't do that. And I had a newsletter for a while. Hey, John, maybe your newsletter shouldn't be 12,000 words. Maybe you want to keep it under 10. But I have things to say. I have these ideas. I'm connecting these dots. This is interesting to me. And now that I'm redoing some of that stuff and looking at it in different ways, I'm like, oh, I see why you don't want 12,000 words. Okay. But when it comes to coaching, I'll talk for days, because really coaching comes down to, you have it's the vanilla ice issue. You have a problem, and I'll solve it. Whether it's a conversation about motivation or scheduling, or how to fix a chapter, or how to write a query letter, or you just want to, like, I have people who randomly call me just to complain about things. Hey, I got these rejection letters. This didn't work. I lost this thing, whatever. I'm just going to vent for an hour. Cool. Do you mind if I eat something while we do it? Cool. Great. Here we go. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just, I just take the phone and I put the phone down and I walk away, and they're just going in the background, and I lean over and go, yeah, wow, that sucks. And it gives them a chance to feel better. Coaching is there to do whatever the writer needs to do to solve whatever things in front of them. It works for scheduling and motivation and writer's block, and it's chapter by chapter editing if you need it, and it's generally answering questions, and it's how to do this and how to do this and how to not do this, and making stuff better, and just generally like prodding you forward when you need it, but also reining you in when you go too far. And it used to be this strange adversarial relationship. We were in this, it was very much, I had early clients tell me it was a lot like going to the gym, because there I would be like telling you, like, all right, come on, lift some more, write some more, do some more, 5 more times. You can like in an assertive way, because I was trying to figure out who I was and trying to figure out how to have one consistent dynamic with everybody. I wanted every writer I worked with to fit one template, to fit one mold, to be one way, because I didn't want to have to do extra work, because I was dumb. And I thought I could make everybody fit one size. I thought if I could just get everybody to operate this way, I'd only have to do these 3 or 4 things over and over and over. And then I could have, peace and quiet at the end of the day. When I was doing that, I was partially successful, but I know I wasn't doing as good a job as I am now, because instead of meeting people where they are, I was making them meet me where I was. And that is not conducive to helping people long term. It's great in the individual. Like, if you come to me once and I never see you again, we don't have to have a long-term relationship developed here. We don't have to lay the foundational pieces so that you can come back 3, 4, 5, 6, 20, 30, 40 times. But now, again, I've mellowed in my old age. It's a matter of, hey, what do you need? What do you want to do? Okay, let's just get you there. How's that sound? And to take the mysterious and impractical, to take the strange, why is no one talking about this stuff, and then turn it into, oh, here's how you do that. Here's 4 things you can do right now to do that. That, to me, is what makes coaching the best. Better than editing. Better than damn near anything else I do. The ability for me to go, oh, you just need to do these 4 things. Here you go. This is how you do it. Would you like me to draw you a picture? I can explain it to you, and off you go. And then all of a sudden they come back and go, I did the thing, and it worked. Great. That's all I wanted. Coaching's there to help. It is my way of reaching other people.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do without it. I'm boring as an editor. I'm too rigid, and I'm too harsh as an editor. Like, I'll come at you and edit and go like, this doesn't work, here's a problem. I am not the guy who's all like, oh, this was so great, I love that, this was wonderful. Nope. If you want, like, I'll pat you on the head a little bit. I will tell you periodically, oh, this is a really good paragraph, and here's why. But if you're looking for me just to give you just the compliment and then not a reason why, I'm going to feel awkward, because you didn't, I mean, if you want to hire me just to tell you good things about yourself, I will make a list and then I will do that for you. But unbidden, random compliments in the middle of your work when there are 15 other things we could talk about seem a little weird to me. And that gave me a reputation of kind of being a jerk. Now, maybe I am. I'm a lot of things to a lot of people. So maybe I'm a little bit of a jerk. But it's not about, one of the big problems I have with editing is that it's not my job to be your friend. It's my job to help you accomplish your creative goal. If I can be friendly while I do it, sweet. That's fantastic. And I will be your friend over time as we work together. But I'm not coming in here to like be the fun babysitter. That's always how I saw it. When I was a little kid, I had one very strict babysitter who was good because I got to like, had a nice little structure. I knew when I was going to brush my teeth. I knew when we were going to do this. I knew when I was going to bed. And that really worked for me. But as I got a little older, we had a fun babysitter. And oh man, that was way more fun because I didn't have to do those things anymore. I don't want to be that fun babysitter though, because you're not interested, or a client, I can't say you specifically, a client is very seldom interested in like, hey, I'm paying this large sum of money. Could you just kind of meander all over the place and barely do anything? So instead, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it. This is the goal. This is the plan. I believe in you. You can do this, but it's not easy. And I think that's the part too many people and too many editors shy away from admitting. This isn't easy. You're not going to, pay a couple hundred to a couple $1,000s because it's fun. Like, this is not a slip and slide on a warm summer day in the park. This is going to be you in part confronting yourself, in part changing something you're deeply emotionally connected to. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be questioning yourself. It can lead to doubt. It can lead to frustration. It can lead to anger. It can lead to exhaustion. It's a messy thing. So if I can come in and be a combination of a little bit of fun and a little bit rigid and a little bit proactive and a little bit receptive, you'll get where you want to go. And it's coaching that taught me that, so that I don't have to always be, oh my God, it's so great to see you. I mean, it's always great to see everybody. I like people. People are pretty great sometimes. But if I can just be me and you can just be you, and we don't have to adopt some kind of strange pretense, everybody benefits far more.
How did you get into coaching? Like, what was your first?
Okay, I got to find a clean version of this story.
Uh-oh.
So, no, it's fine. It's fine. I was dating a woman who was a different kind of coach. She was a what's the word I want to use? She was kind of an all-purpose coach. She worked with women. She specialized with their entrepreneurial efforts. She specialized with their intimate efforts. She specialized with their just general, like, you're in a funk, let's break you out and do something. And I thought that not only how do I say this without sounding too bad? I thought she was great, and I was desperate to get to know her better. She sensed this and kind of kept me in the orbit. It didn't work out at all because of the not clean versions of this story. But by and large, like, I was in and around the apartment while these things were going on. Like, I'm in the other room. I'm trying not to like stare at them or listen over here. But, I'm in the kitchen there in the front of the apartment. Sound travels. Mm-hmm. And it just picked up on this idea of like, oh, you just talk to her? Like, you don't have to like sit at the laptop and ferociously type. You just talk? And they hand you money for that? Really? Oh, how do I do that? How do I convert Because at the time I was only doing editing, and then when I was done, I would call you, or this was back in the day when you could visit humans. So I would appear in your house, or we would meet in some like neutral holy ground location, like bookstore cafes, or like I met a lot of people like in parks and things in New York City, and we would talk, and I just kind of walk you through like, okay, here's the, I pull out my little notepad. Here are the 10 things you got to think about and work on. I've emailed it to you, or depending on who you were, I handed you an envelope with a stack of papers that I typed out. When I started to learn, like, oh, you can just talk to people, I realized I didn't have to spend like 40 to 60 hours staring at a book I didn't like, staring at the same 25. You're doing the comma thing again. You're doing the semicolon thing again. That's a vague pronoun. That's a vague pronoun. And hey, guess what? That's a vague pronoun too. It started to be about like just talking to people. And when I first got started with it, I remember being terrified because it felt like I was working without a net. It felt like I had to be missing something, right? This is a gimmick. This is a trap because I'm just going to talk to you and then you're going to cut me a check. The first woman I ever coached was a doctor writing a nonfiction text about her experience as some kind of geneticist or whatever I think she's still doing it. She's some kind of geneticist. And she had written like a 210 page short little like nonfiction. This was my experience with this study that I did, blah, blah, very technical, very dry. And I had edited it ages ago, months prior. And she calls me one day. She says, hey, can you meet me at this bookstore? I just want to talk to you about what the next steps would be. And I thought she was coming to yell at me, because anybody who says, hey, do you want to, can you meet me and talk, to me always makes me think like, oh, I'm in trouble. I've violated some rule. And so I'm like ready for battle. I'm like white knuckle in the chair, and I'm nervous. Like, okay, I'm ready to apologize for whatever I did that I didn't know I did. And she's just like, I just want to ask you how to get this thing published. Oh, that's a conversation I can have. No problem. All right. So what do you want to do? Here's how this was 15 plus years ago. Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. This is way before we're into like the Kindle stuff. This is still the early end of like print on demand and things and PDF creation at home. So I walk her through, oh, wow, that's really great. And I get ready to leave because this was about an hour-long conversation. I give her everything I can think of to do what she wants to do. I tell her what kind of paper to buy and where to get it and who to send it to and all this stuff. And she's like, well, how much do I owe you? And I think to myself, oh, God, did I not bill her for the editing we did? It was months ago. Oh, God, I'm not ready for this. And so I ask, what do you mean? She's like, you just gave me a consult. You should get paid for your work, right? That's a thing I've been saying since I was in high school. Everybody should get paid for their work. So I'm like, I don't know. It was an hour, so $100. I got scared. I picked a round number, thinking she would go no, and then walk me down to like, I'd be happy with 20, but I wasn't going to tell her that. 100? Can I write you a check? Yes. You can write me a check. She writes me out a check, and then I go home with $100 check in my pocket.
Sweet.
I didn't do anything. Like, I just sat and talked. It's like this. And then I'm like, can I, it's a fluke. It's a fluke. It's just that one time. So I go to I was in a writing group. I was running a writing group at the time. And she's in the writing group. I see her the next week, and she's like, I talked to John for an hour. He totally fixed the problem I had. You should talk to John. And then a couple days later, a guy comes up to me and goes, I don't know how to outline this book. Help me. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And he's like, I'll pay you. And then all of a sudden, I'm doing it again. And then again. And again. And I haven't stopped. There are long periods where I didn't do so much of it because that's just how time works. But there are also times where it's all I'm doing, where I'm doing 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 conversations a day. And at the end of the day, I just kind of want to sit here with like a bottle of water or something because I've been talking straight for hours. But I again, like the editing, like the radio job, like damn near anything where I've had to like do something other than video games or fast food, I fell into it. I'm I'm getting older now. Like I feel it. My knees hurt, my elbows hurt. I'm wondering what else I'm going to fall into, which is exciting and at the same time terrifying.
Yeah.
Because I used to be somebody who would look at opportunity, and if it wasn't easy and direct, freak out and run the other way. What do you mean I have to do work for this? Oh, I'm not interested in that. Oh, there'll be no work here. Thank you very much. I'm gone. And I regret that. I'm working hard to fix that. That's probably why there's therapy every damn near every day. But it makes a difference. Like apparently not running away from hard things makes your life different in some ways. Who knew? But coaching is one of those things. I just fell into it. And again, now it's a thing I've been doing so long. I don't want to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I like it more than editing. I would love to be able, hang on, I'm going to cough. Excuse me. I would love to be able to totally give up editing because that to me is exhausting. Like I got to spend 12 hours in your head working on your words to make this sound like you. And it's hard. Some people are not as good yet as they will be. You know, I get to see early first and second drafts, and that's messy. I see kind of where you're trying to go, but you are not there. And we are going to have many conversations about like, here's how you build a paragraph. Here's how you build a scene. This is how you use these words. And it can be far more tiring than something like this, where I can just be like, oh, you want to talk? Cool. Let's just talk. I would love to get out of editing entirely. The other problem is it pays better and more consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching, I think to its detriment, coaching seems abstract. It seems very luxury item. Oh, you have a free hour and a little bit of money. You should spend it just talking. And it's hard to make that transition to where it seems like it's a critical idea because I really do think that given an hour, if you know what you want to talk about, if you have a question and you're stuck, like I haven't written in 4 weeks. What do I do? I don't know if this book is any good. What do I do? How do I publish this? How do I write a query letter? Why am I, whatever the problem is, if you can verbalize it outwardly to another human and then get help with that thing, I think it changes the way you create. I think it changes how you make whatever you make.
Mm-hmm.
And it's set now. When I say it like that, it just sounds really pie in the sky. Like, what do you mean it fixes everything? No, you still have to write. You still have to do the work, but it can make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to make that sound like a reasonable idea because a lot of people aren't interested in it being easy. They like complaining, or they're so used to it being difficult that the idea of it not being difficult kind of freaks them out because what are they going to do with their free time? Or what do I, if it gets easier and I finish it, that means I have to move to the next steps, and the next steps are 10 times scarier than this step. I get it. I believe me, I get it. I have run away from so many things because the next steps were hard. But coaching will change your life. Coaching will change the way you create. Coaching's there to, I've always described it as it takes the static away from your broadcast. You know, when you're driving or whatever, and you go through a tunnel and the radio kind of gets all hissy. Coaching is the thing that clarifies the broadcast. You tune in the radio a little better. You get a clearer message, and then you're out listening to your favorite stuff again. I think everybody should get coached, not just because, oh my God, that means I'll have more people to talk to, but because I genuinely think it helps. I've coached hundreds of humans. I have never run into somebody who's in a worse position for being coached. I don't know if I should take credit for that. I don't think I should. But, oh, excuse me, it's never been a thing where it was a bad idea. It's never been a poor investment for people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the difficult question, how has
Yes,
COVID
please.
How has COVID affected things?
It was good for a while. People were home. They didn't really know what to do. Um, some of them even had some disposable income. And everybody was sort of enervated in this new way of life. Oh, we're working from home. It's kind of thrilling and it's novel. And people were still excited to be like in Zoom things or talking to one another. And there was still that giddiness about I'm doing this in my pajamas. Ha ha ho ho. And it was great for a while. I picked up more work. I was helping more people. Things were really successful. Everybody was sort of enthusiastic because this is going to be short. This is going to be real short term. Uh, our people in charge care about us, and everything's going to be fine. We'll be through. It's just a little blip on the radar. It's a little speed bump on the highway to success. We're going to be just fine. And I saw it as like, oh, this will be great. There'll be a couple months of just a boom period for me because as a creative, you might know this, it tends to be very boom and bust.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to hope that your busts aren't real long or real deep or both, and that there's always another boom that you can somehow engineer or get into. So I was doing great for a while. And then the wheels came off because it didn't really stop. We were still at home. The people in charge continued to reveal they did not care about us. The money dried up. People got bored. They had to go back to work. They felt stressed in a million different directions. And their creativity, for whatever reason, became the expendable thing. They didn't have the time. They didn't have the energy. They didn't have the focus. They didn't know what to do. They put it on the shelf. And I completely understand. And then the business started to quiet. And I that's when I started to like pick up and put more out to sort of remind people like, hey, you can be creative. It's okay. Like, come have a conversation, please. Or don't let that go out. Don't forget what you're making. Don't give up on that just because, I understand you're working 14 hours for slave wages from people who don't care about you and you don't feel satisfied, but this is a chance for you to feel satisfied even for 10 minutes. And it cratered for a while, like badly. And I've been trying to pick it up ever since. Trying to I won't be able to get it back to where it was. There's not enough support nationally / globally for that. Like those days are gone. So it's got to change and transform. And it's weird because the people I most find, the people who come to me most frequently, are the people they're the people for whom creativity is not disposable. It is the people for whom making a book, writing a story, telling this thing, shaping this thing, doing art, making whatever, to them it is their lifeblood. It is their bone marrow. And in that space, I think it's fantastic. I think every human being should be creative and allowed to be creative. But at the same time, given that capitalism is directly opposition to creativity, because you should be a good silent worker and help other people get rich off your labor, people don't have the money for it, which puts me in a tight spot because I don't like money. I don't like a lot of what's going on in the world, but I need it because I have this dumb thing called hunger, and I like eating occasionally. So it's got ups and downs. It has been at times it has been this great thing because, oh my God, people are like, when COVID started and I was running the chat, it was packed because I was new and exciting. And oh my God, I'm on Zoom all the time. I might as well be on Zoom again. And now it's waned. Now that was me digging. I apologize. It's waned. It's sort of been like, oh well, this is how it normally is. For good or for ill. I would love to see it come back. I would love to. One of the things I'm working on this week, actually, I was working on it right before we started talking, is whatever the next thing. Because I'm big on things. I'm big on like, okay, I'm doing this new project. I've got this new initiative. I've got this new push. Hopefully it works. Build the plane and push it off the cliff and see if it flies. Mm-hmm. that's been the model I've been using for years, but that model, that formula is starting to show its age, either because I'm showing my age or I'm not realistically looking at how things are and I need to. But COVID has been transformative for good and for ill, to answer your question, which I still don't feel like I'm really good at doing. But I'll keep practicing if you keep asking me questions.
Okay. Well, I don't want to. It's already been an hour. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Oh, it's totally fine.
The
Do you
next.
have one more question? We can squeeze. I got 55 minutes on my clock here. You got one more?
What have your failures taught you?
I got to fit that in 5 minutes? Oh, man. All right. So hang on. We're going to move the microphone. All right. I have failed in about, a bajillion ways. I have failed personally. I have failed professionally. I have failed publicly. I have failed privately. And some of these failures were small. Oh, that I never finished that. I wrote a book and it published, like, I sold 5 copies, 10 copies, and I gave up. That's by most accounts a success, but to me, I wanted to move several hundred. That's a failure. It took me 10 years to get another book to a publisher because I dragged my feet and I didn't have the money. And I failed because I wasn't working consistently enough to have the money to pay the bill to get the guy to print the thing. I have failed privately that no one knows about. And I leak a little bit of it here and there, not so much to be titillating or something, but because it just can't be helped sometimes. But I have failed spectacularly in private. I have nuked relationships and interactions and opportunities that most people don't know the full story on and never will. But I've also failed publicly. Things that are on the internet, things that, haunt the corners of whatever hashtag you want to go looking for. And rumor, even though this is years past, rumors still swirl and people still talk because what else are they going to do? And it was bad. And I have failed professionally. I have started so many things and so many ideas and printed so many business cards and tried to do this and built this and made this and planned to do this. And then it just didn't work. At one point, I was going to make an app. I took several $1,000s to invest in classes, and it didn't work. Like it was hard, and it wasn't hard in that sense of like, oh, this is going to take time, but I can do it. It was completely foreign to me.
Yeah.
It was visual and technical and mathy, and I am none of those things. I am maybe technical, but I am not the guy who's going to sit there and go like, my code must be improved. I could not care more about code. So I have failed a lot, no matter what, whether it's somebody yelling at me or whether it's somebody mad at me or whether it's somebody vowing they will never talk to me again, or whether it's a debt I still have to pay, or whether it's a sense of obligation, or if it's a sense of incredible shame and guilt. It has all taught me either something good about myself, like, hey, you've survived this sort of experience, or it's taught me, sometimes painfully, don't do that again. When you reach this pattern, when you get back to that spot, albeit with a different person or a different opportunity or a different thing, don't make that choice. At the fork in the road, stop going left, dummy. It's easier if you just go right. And it's taught me to trust myself, which is not a thing I do, but I try. Because when you screw up enough times, you start thinking that all your instincts are wrong and all your skills are garbage because you always seem to be making mistakes and it always seems to be screwing up. And then you look at everybody else who seems to be not doing those things and you start feeling really inadequate. Like, how come that person gets $10,000 for that job? I did 4 times as much and I got $37. How did that work? And through a number of reasons, you find out, oh, it's because I didn't value my time. I didn't market the right way to make it clear. I didn't advocate for myself. I didn't do the thing they did, even though it looked on the surface like I did. The failure has always taught me to keep trying. The failure has taught me that it is not like nothing has stopped me yet. I've had heart attacks. I've been through rehab. I have slogged through bad jobs. I have been booted out of groups and communities. I have started groups and publishers and communities and been booted out of them too. I have printed things. I have lost things. I have sold things. I have done dumb things. I have done really dumb things. I've done tons, and it's all failed. And when you fail enough, you get the sense that the stuff that isn't over yet could still be a failure. Like the ongoing thing might be my next failure, which sort of puts you on a high wire act about like, when is it going to start screwing up? And that's the space I live in right now. I'm having this conversation. What if I say something and it ruins everything? Or, I've got to go text this person, and what if that turns into a battle? And what about this? And what about that? And failure has taught me to try not to think like that. I don't always succeed. Some days and sometimes it's better than others, but it has taught me that I can do it. It's also taught me that I'm not the person I was when I was 22. Because that kid was dumber than a bag of hammers. And I don't know how he survived. Sheer dumb luck and stupidity and just, if I told you all the things I did in my early 20s, you'd sit there and go, that's a lot. How are you here? I don't know anymore. And I stopped really looking, and I just sort of say, I'm here now. But failure is my best teacher. Way more than my success. It's probably because I'm pessimistic, even though I desperately wish I could be an optimist. I've tried. I've had many people try and get me to be optimistic, and it doesn't really stick. It just doesn't feel sincere. But failure teaches me a lot every day, every time. I don't like it. It sucks. I hate it. But I still learn from it. It's a very good question. It's an excellent question. You did great asking questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's something I'm good at.
You're good at plenty of things. Name me another thing you're good at. Go ahead. I'll wait. Name me a thing. You've got a cat. The cat's not dead. Why doesn't that count?
Oh, I guess that counts.
You get to choose what counts and what doesn't, right? So why can't the cat being alive count as a victory because you haven't killed it yet? You put on clothes. You put on makeup. I don't know why you put on makeup. I'm just mean. It's nice. You look nice.
Thanks.
But you got dressed. From everything I've heard, you've not lit yourself on fire today, so that's pretty good. Like, you get to take your successes where you can find them.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
You're good at things. You're good at this. If you keep doing this, you will get better at it. Because this could have gone totally differently, right? Mm-hmm. We could have just sat here and just stared, and then done a lot of just stare. No, you're fine. You did great. You did great.
Thank you.
Keep doing more of these.
Well, hopefully in the future, I'll find more people that want to.
You just got to ask. People, I think, given a chance, and when people are aware of the intention, I think people will surprise each other. Maybe that's my optimism. Maybe that's the part I really like, because there are groups of human beings I talk about every week that are terrible human beings to each other. But I think fundamentally, if you strip out all the hashtags and you get past all the drama and you just talk 1-to-1 on somebody, or 2-to-1 or whatever, small group of people, and you're clear about what you want to do, and it's sincerely compassionate, and you're honest about it, and you admit that you might not know what to do, or you might not know how hard it has to be, or how long it's going to take. You don't know everything. You don't know the whole picture, but this is where you're going. I think people will fundamentally surprise you. They might be mad. They might be upset. They might stamp their foot and say, I wish this was different. Yeah, I do too, believe me. But I think people will fundamentally surprise you if you just ask, "Hey, I'm trying to get better at talking. This is hard for me. Can we talk and you can help me get better at this? And in exchange, I'll ask you 9 questions that are going to help you fill time, and you get to talk about what you want to talk about, but I get to ask questions. We both benefit here. We get some verbal mutual aid, and everybody wins in the end."
Mm.
I think people will surprise you if you give them a chance.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Thank you. Was there anything you wanted to plug before we?
Oh my God, I love plugs. Plugs are great. Yeah, I got 2 plugs. So, 1, if you ever want to support what I do, no matter what, the best thing you can do is go check out the Patreon. Patreon.com/John helps you create. That literally pays for everything. That covers I save part of that so I can buy gear. That pays the electric bill so I can keep using the gear, and the leftover stuff is food. In exchange for your very kind $2, $5, or $10 a month, your choice, no pressure. Every week I'm going to talk to you about a movie. We're going to watch a movie together, and then you're going to hear me talk over it, essentially explain to you, like, hey, this is what works, this doesn't work, here's a problem, here's how you fix it, and if you're making this thing, here's how you would do it. And then we try to have a couple of laughs along the way so that it's not like super boring, because sometimes it's a bad movie and I stare off into space wondering how I'm going to try to make this thing exciting, but sometimes it's a good movie. We just did Lethal Weapon, the first one.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot. There's a lot to say. It's good though. I love talking about that stuff. If that's plug number 1. Plug number 2, if you want to get your help, if you want to get your questions answered, if you want to check out anything I do, the best thing you can do, either 1, come find me on Twitch. Excuse me, twitch.tv/John helps you write better. I'm there Monday and Wednesday night. You can ask me any question anytime. Now, normally it's about 2 hours, but if we kept talking, we could do more. You just got to let me put a bathrobe on or something if I get cold. But you can just talk to me whenever. And if you are a Patreon person, if you do back to Patreon, you get access to the Discord, where you can just ask me questions all damn day because I'm always there.
Okay, cool.
Those are my plugs. And if for some reason, I'll throw a third plug in, I'll really mess up your structure. If somebody out there is listening to this and they want to know, like, hey, I need help me, the best thing you can do, you go to writernextdoor.com. Right at the top of the page, there's this little thing that says book an appointment. You click that. There is a free option. You click that. It's free. I will help you for free. You just got to click it. You're good enough to click a button. You do it all day long. This will be good. And I'd be happy to help.
Perfect.
Yay, plugs.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you.
You're a fantastic interviewer.
Well, thank you.
I feel bad because previously in interviews, I tend to try to get the other person talking. That's a John thing. I failed to do that today. I apologize. I felt I monopolized our time. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's supposed to be about you, so I think it works.
Okay. Well, you're very good at this. Keep doing it.
Thank you. All
All right. You have anything else?
No, that was it. So,
Awesome. Good job today.
Thank you.
You did great. I'm proud of you. Would you like more air horns?
Sure.
Everybody loves air horns. All right. I will go do things. You can go do things, and we will see what happens next.
Okay. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bye.